The waitress yelled at the mafia boss. Everyone went silent when he replied. The air in the Sunset Spoon is thick with the smell of old grease and burnt coffee, a perfume I know better than my own skin. Brimridge, Pennsylvania, clings to the outside of the streaked windows, a city of rust-colored rivers and steel skeletons, ambition left behind. It is late, well past midnight, and my shift is dragging its feet toward the grave. My fingers are raw, the skin around my knuckles split from scrubbing tables and handling cash. A constant, stinging reminder of the stack of bills on my kitchenette counter. My brain feels just as raw, scraped thin by the 3-hour online macroeconomics lecture I just finished in the break room. The bell above the door jingles, a sound that usually means another pot of coffee, another tired trucker. Tonight, it means something else. The cold follows them in. It is not just the October air, it is a presence, a weight that settles over the worn linoleum floor. 5 men. They wear dark wool coats that cost more than my apartment, more than my entire tuition. They move as one, parting the thin crowd of late-night diners like a ship cutting through bilge water. The man in the lead stops just inside the door, his gaze sweeping the room. He's not the biggest, but the air bends around him. He owns the space he stands in. This is Riven Calder. I have never seen him, but everybody in Brimridge knows the name. The Calder Consortium. Logistics. They call it private security. Half legit, half shadow, and all-powerful. He turns his head, and his eyes, cold as the river outside, land on the kitchen pass-through. Right on cue, Stan, my manager, explodes. That's the third one this week. Lucy, his voice is a wet rasp, always aimed at the weakest person in the room. A crash echoes from the back. A muffled sob follows. Lucy, the new dishwasher, cannot be more than 17. You think these things are free? That's coming out of your check. You clumsy. Riven Calder says something, his voice quiet. Not much more than a murmur, but it cuts through Stan's tirade like a razor. Some animals, he says, not looking at Stan, but at the trembling girl in the pass-through, only feel big when they bark at their young. Stan freezes, his face going pale, then mottled red. He recognizes him. Everyone does. The whole diner stops. Forks hang in the air. The sizzle of the grill is the only sound. Something inside me snaps. It is the exhaustion, the cracked skin, the looming dread of the first of the month, and the sight of Lucy wiping her eyes on her soiled apron. It is the sheer, arrogant injustice of a man who owns the city, commenting on the cruelty of a man who just manages a diner. I am holding a heavy tray, loaded with plates of congealed fries and half-eaten burgers. I turn from my table. I walk toward the front. I stop a few feet from Riven Calder. His men tense. One of them, a man with a jaw like a cinder block, subtly shifts his coat, his hand disappearing inside. Calder's eyes slide from the kitchen to me. They are flat, assessing. You want to scare someone, I say, my voice low but carrying in the dead silence. You do it out there. I nod toward the dark street. This is where people earn a living. Leave her alone. The silence that follows is absolute. It is a vacuum. I can feel the pulse in my throat. Stan looks like he might faint. The man with the cinder block jaw takes a half step forward, his eyes promising violence. I do not look at him. I look at Riven Calder. I set the heavy tray down on an empty table with a solid, deliberate thud. My hands are shaking, but I ball them into fists at my sides. I will not look away. I will not back down. I am so tired of being afraid. Calder studies my face. He's not angry. He's not amused. He is something else. Intrigued. He sees the cracks in my hands, the exhaustion in my eyes, and the absolute refusal set in my jaw. It is pride meeting pride, and for a second, I feel a strange, dangerous spark, a recognition. He inclines his head, a tiny, fractional movement. You're right, he says. His voice is soft. It is the quietest thing in the room, but it lands like a judgment. The tension breaks, but it does not evaporate. It just changes shape. He reaches inside his coat, but he does not pull out a weapon. He pulls out a wallet. Black leather. Old, expensive. He walks to the register, where Stan is pretending to polish the counter. Calder drops a fan of $100 bills. "This covers everyone," he says, "for the whole night." Stan gapes at the money. Calder turns, his coat swirling around him. He pauses by my table, the one where I left the tray. His eyes find mine again. He places something heavy on the table, a watch, steel, simple, powerful. It is not a gift, it is a statement. "Tonight," he says, his voice for me alone. Nobody loses their pay over a broken glass. He holds my gaze for 1 second longer. It feels like an hour. I see the man, and I see the reputation, and for the first time, I see they are the same thing. Then he and his shadows are gone. The bell jingles, and the cold air is sucked back out into the night. The diner erupts in whispers. Stan rushes over, his greasy facade of authority back in place, and scoops up the money. I just stare at the watch. It is heavy in my hand, ticking steadily, indifferent. My apron pocket buzzes. I pull out my phone, my fingers still numb, a text message, a notification from the county court. Order of eviction granted. Occupant Maris Ellery, Plaintiff Eamon Pike, ESQ, premises must be vacated within 72 hours. My stomach drops through the floor. Eamon Pike, I know that name. Everyone fighting the riverfront redevelopment knows that name. He's the legal hatchet man for Sloan Hargrave, the developer swallowing up the entire waterfront, my neighborhood included. My landlord must have sold the building out from under us. 72 hours. My breath catches. The medical bills from my mother's last year are a mountain. My brother, Tobin, is sinking, pulled under by the glittering lure of the Peregrine rooms. Hargrave's high-stakes casino. I am drowning, and the water just got 10 feet higher. I look back at the register. Stan is gone, and so is the watch. But next to the pile of cash, there is a business card, cream-colored, heavy stock. Mid-Atlantic Financial Crimes Authority, MAFCA. It sounds official. It sounds clean. I flip it over. In the center, embossed so deep I can feel it with my thumb, is a single, stylized letter C. Calder. I crush the card in my fist. The sharp corner digs into my palm. I do not need mafia charity. I do not need a predator's protection. But as I look out the window at the dying embers of the steel mills, I feel the floor drop out from under me. I am standing on the edge of a very long, very dark fall, and the man who just left my diner might be the only one who knows how to survive it. The air in the Sunset Spoon is thick with the smell of old grease and burnt coffee, a perfume I know better than my own skin. Brimridge, Pennsylvania, clings to the outside of the streaked windows, a city of rust-colored rivers and steel skeletons, ambition left behind. It is late, well past midnight, and my shift is dragging its feet toward the grave. My fingers are raw, the skin around my knuckles split from scrubbing tables and handling cash, a constant stinging reminder of the stack of bills on my kitchenette counter. My brain feels just as raw, scraped thin by the 3-hour online macroeconomics lecture I just finished in the break room. The bell above the door jingles, a sound that usually means another pot of coffee, another tired trucker. Tonight, it means something else. The cold follows them in. It is not just the October air, it is a presence, a weight that settles over the worn linoleum floor. 5 men. They wear dark wool coats that cost more than my apartment, more than my entire tuition. They move as one, parting the thin crowd of late-night diners like a ship cutting through bilge water. The man in the lead stops just inside the door, his gaze sweeping the room. He's not the biggest, but the air bends around him. He owns the space he stands in. This is Riven Calder. I have never seen him, but everybody in Brimridge knows the name. The Calder Consortium. Logistics. They call it private security. Half legit, half shadow, and all-powerful. He turns his head, and his eyes, cold as the river outside, land on the kitchen pass-through. Right on cue, Stan, my manager, explodes. That's the third one this week, Lucy. His voice is a wet rasp, always aimed at the weakest person in the room. A crash echoes from the back. A muffled sob follows. Lucy, the new dishwasher, cannot be more than 17. You think these things are free? That's coming out of your check. You clumsy. Riven Calder says something, his voice quiet, not much more than a murmur, but it cuts through Stan's tirade like a razor. Some animals, he says, not looking at Stan, but at the trembling girl in the pass-through, only feel big when they bark at their young. Stan freezes, his face going pale, then mottled red. He recognizes him. Everyone does. The whole diner stops. Forks hang in the air. The sizzle of the grill is the only sound. Something inside me snaps. It is the exhaustion, the cracked skin, the looming dread of the first of the month, and the sight of Lucy wiping her eyes on her soiled apron. It is the sheer, arrogant injustice of a man who owns the city, commenting on the cruelty of a man who just manages a diner. I am holding a heavy tray, loaded with plates of congealed fries and half-eaten burgers. I turn from my table. I walk toward the front. I stop a few feet from Riven Calder. His men tense. One of them, a man with a jaw like a cinder block, subtly shifts his coat, his hand disappearing inside. Calder's eyes slide from the kitchen to me. They are flat, assessing. You want to scare someone, I say, my voice low but carrying in the dead silence. You do it out there. I nod toward the dark street. This is where people earn a living. Leave her alone. The silence that follows is absolute. It is a vacuum. I can feel the pulse in my throat. Stan looks like he might faint. The man with the cinder block jaw takes a half step forward, his eyes promising violence. I do not look at him. I look at Riven Calder. I set the heavy tray down on an empty table with a solid, deliberate thud. My hands are shaking, but I ball them into fists at my sides. I will not look away. I will not back down. I am so tired of being afraid. Calder studies my face. He's not angry. He's not amused. He is something else. Intrigued. He sees the cracks in my hands, the exhaustion in my eyes, and the absolute refusal set in my jaw. It is pride meeting pride. And for a second, I feel a strange, dangerous spark, a recognition. He inclines his head, a tiny, fractional movement. You're right, he says. His voice is soft. It is the quietest thing in the room, but it lands like a judgment. The tension breaks, but it does not evaporate. It just changes shape. He reaches inside his coat, but he does not pull out a weapon. He pulls out a wallet, black leather, old, expensive. He walks to the register, where Stan is pretending to polish the counter. Calder drops a fan of $100 bills. This covers everyone, he says, for the whole night. Stan gapes at the money. Calder turns, his coat swirling around him. He pauses by my table, the one where I left the tray. His eyes find mine again. He places something heavy on the table, a watch, steel, simple, powerful. It is not a gift. It is a statement. Tonight, he says, his voice for me alone. Nobody loses their pay over a broken glass. He holds my gaze for 1 second longer. It feels like an hour. I see the man, and I see the reputation, and for the first time, I see they are the same thing. Then he and his shadows are gone. The bell jingles, and the cold air is sucked back out into the night. The diner erupts in whispers. Stan rushes over, his greasy facade of authority back in place, and scoops up the money. I just stare at the watch. It is heavy in my hand, ticking steadily, indifferent. My apron pocket buzzes. I pull out my phone, my fingers still numb. A text message. A notification from the county court. Order of eviction granted. Occupant Maris Ellery, plaintiff Eamon Pike. ESQ, premises must be vacated within 72 hours. My stomach drops through the floor. Eamon Pike, I know that name. Everyone fighting the riverfront redevelopment knows that name. He's the legal hatchet man for Sloan Hargrave, the developer swallowing up the entire waterfront, my neighborhood included. My landlord must have sold the building out from under us. 72 hours. My breath catches. The medical bills from my mother's last year are a mountain. My brother, Tobin, is sinking, pulled under by the glittering lure of the Peregrine rooms. Hargrave's high-stakes casino, I am drowning, and the water just got 10 feet higher. I look back at the register. Stan is gone, and so is the watch. But next to the pile of cash, there is a business card, cream-colored, heavy stock. Mid-Atlantic Financial Crimes Authority, MAFCA. It sounds official. It sounds clean. I flip it over. In the center, embossed so deep I can feel it with my thumb, is a single, stylized letter C. Calder. I crush the card in my fist. The sharp corner digs into my palm. I do not need mafia charity. I do not need a predator's protection. But as I look out the window at the dying embers of the steel mills, I feel the floor drop out from under me. I am standing on the edge of a very long, very dark fall, and the man who just left my diner might be the only one who knows how to survive it. The banging starts at 6 a.m., sharp and brutal, echoing the metallic taste of panic in my mouth. I have not slept. I am sitting on the floor of my living room, surrounded by cardboard boxes that are not nearly full enough. County Sheriff final notice of eviction. The voice is Eamon Pike's, slick and confident, amplified by a small megaphone. I clutch the only box I truly care about. It is a simple banker's box, filled with old books and resting on top, my mother's leather-bound cocktail notebook. Her whole life, her dreams of a bar that was not the Sunset Spoon, written in elegant fading ink. The wood of my apartment door groans under another heavy fist. You have 5 minutes, Ellery, then we're drilling the lock. I stand up, my knees cracking. I am ready to tell them to go to hell, to buy myself a few more minutes of dignity. I open the door. Pike is there, a smirk plastered on his face, flanked by 2 bored-looking private security guards in cheap blazers. His smirk falters. He's not looking at me. He's looking past me, over my shoulder. I turn. Riven Calder is standing in my hallway. He's not in a wool coat now. He's wearing a dark, perfectly tailored suit that makes the narrow, peeling hallway look even shabbier. He's flanked by 2 people who are definitely not security, a man and a woman in equally sharp suits, carrying expensive leather briefcases. Mr. Pike, Calder says. His voice is quiet as it was in the diner, but it fills the small space completely. Pike's composure cracks. Calder, this is official county business. You have no standing here. The woman next to Calder steps forward. I'm Elena Ross, lead counsel for the Calder Consortium. And you, Mr. Pike, are in violation of Section 4C of the Brimridge Housing Accord. You filed for eviction based on a sale, but failed to provide the tenant with the required 30-day notice of new management, superseding the original lease terms. Your 72-hour notice. She taps a document in her hand is invalid. Pike's face goes from smug to white. That's a technicality. It's the law, Riven Calder says, his eyes never leaving Pike's. And it's a law my counsel has just filed an emergency injunction to enforce. Miss Ellery has 14 days, minimum. Pike looks like he swallowed poison. He glares at me, then at Calder. A new, venomous understanding dawning in his eyes. He jerks his head at his security. We're done here. For now. He turns back to me. His professional mask gone, replaced by pure spite. Enjoy your 2 weeks, waitress. They leave. The sound of their boots on the stairs is a tactical retreat, not a defeat. I shut the door and turn to Riven Calder. The adrenaline is gone, leaving only a cold, vibrating anger. Get out, I say. His legal team looks startled. Calder just watches me. I didn't ask for your help. I don't want your help. What was that, you showing the other shark you have bigger teeth? I gesture wildly around the room. This isn't your boardroom. This is my home. For 14 more days, he says calmly. I am not selling my soul to you for a few days. Riven Calder, I won't be one of your assets. He takes a step closer. Not threatening, just closing the distance. I am giving you time. Maris. His voice is low, intense. No repayment required. Hargrave and Pike. They move fast because they want you desperate. Desperate people make bad deals. I'm just leveling the field. You are the field. You and him. Men like. You are the reason people like me end up with nothing but a box of memories. I am yelling, and I do not care. I am shaking, clutching my mother's notebook so hard my knuckles hurt. He looks at the box. He looks at my hands. He nods, as if I have just confirmed something he already knew. My people will be in touch, he says to the air. His legal team nods and sees themselves out, as silent and efficient as they arrived. He and I are left alone in the cluttered room. The silence is heavier than the shouting was. Why, I finally ask, my voice hoarse. Because you told me to leave the girl alone, he says simply, as if that explains everything. He walks out, leaving me standing in a sea of boxes with 14 days I never asked for. The reprieve lasts exactly 4 hours. My brother, Tobin, shows up, his eyes wide with a fear that is worse than my own. He cannot sit still, pacing my kitchen, his hands pulling at his hair. Toby, what is it? He finally collapses onto a chair. I'm in trouble. Maris. Real trouble. I know this script. How much? It's not the money. It's who? The Peregrine Rooms. Hargrave's Casino, of course. How much, Tobin? 20,000. They said I was a good customer. They gave me a marker. I thought I could flip it. I thought I could help with Mom's bills, with the rent. Oh, Tobe, the floor is tilting again. $20,000. It might as well be 20 million. They gave me 48 hours. Maris, and he finally looks at me, his eyes swimming in shame. 48 hours, or they said they'd take it out on you. The threat hangs in the air, suffocating. Hargrave is not just evicting me, he is putting a noose around my neck and handing the rope to my brother. I spend the rest of the day on the phone, calling in favors I do not have, trying to get payday loans that will not cover a tenth of it. Nothing. The city is a closed door. My shift at the Spoon is a nightmare. Every customer looks like a threat. Every dropped plate sounds like a judgment. When I clock out, I walk to the back parking lot under the flickering yellow security light. A rock sails past my head, smashing into the brick wall with a sharp crack. I duck behind a dumpster, my heart hammering. 2 men, just shadows in the dim light, are standing by the alley's entrance. They are not Pike's polished security. They are rough. Hargrave sends his regards. One of them yells, his voice gravelly, "Maybe you should pack faster." They laugh and melt back into the darkness. I am breathing hard, my back pressed against the cold, greasy metal of the dumpster. A black car glides into the parking lot, its engine almost silent. It stops. The back window rolls down. Riven Calder is sitting inside, bathed in the dim glow of a dashboard. Get in. Maris, it is not a request. I get in. The car smells like leather and cold steel. Are you hurt, he asks, not looking at me, but watching the alley where the men disappeared. No, just scared. Good. I whip my head around. Good. They threw a rock, he says, his voice flat. He gestures to a small, discreet camera high on the corner of the building. My building. Hargrave wants you selfishly scared. He wants you to think about your broken windows, your safety. He wants you running. He finally turns to me, his eyes dark. I want you scared of the right things. He's not just trying to evict you. Maris, he's trying to erase you. And he's using your brother to do it. He knows. Of course he knows. He probably knew before I did. What do you want from me, Riven, I ask, the fight gone out of me? For now, nothing. Just stay alive and stay angry. He's offering me a ride home. The irony is bitter. The man who stopped my eviction is driving me back to the apartment his rival is trying to take. We sit in silence. I'm thinking about the watch he left, the money he paid, the legal team he sent, the 48-hour deadline. Last night, I say, you paid for everyone's meal. You said, no one loses their pay. I remember. Was that Penance or a down payment? He considers this. It was a debt for the noise. Okay, I take a breath. If you really want to pay a debt, if you want to level the field. I'm cooking at the community shelter tomorrow night, the Rivermouth District, the one Hargrave wants to turn into condos. They lost their cook. He looks at me, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. I'm making my mother's stew for 50 people, and my car is unreliable. So, if you want to help, you can drive me, and you can carry the pots. I pause, letting the next words land, and when we're done, you can wash the dishes. I expect him to laugh or to refuse, to tell me he is not a delivery boy. A slow, dangerous smile touches the corner of his mouth. It is the first time I have seen it. It does not reach his eyes, but it changes the entire geography of his face. All right, Maris Ellery. He says, I'll wash the dishes. The next night, the Rivermouth Community Shelter is buzzing. It is chaos, but it is a warm chaos. Riven Calder, dressed not in a suit but in dark jeans and a simple, expensive-looking black sweater, carries 2 massive industrial pots of stew through the door as if they weigh nothing. The neighborhood ladies, the ones who have run this place on donations and grit for 20 years, stop and stare. They know exactly who he is. Put it there. Figlio, Miss Carlotti, the neighborhood matriarch, orders, pointing to the counter, and put this on. You'll ruin your shirt. She tosses him a faded, ruffled apron with Kiss the Cook printed on it. I hold my breath. His men, the same shadows from the diner, are standing stiffly by the door, looking deeply uncomfortable. Riven looks at the apron. He looks at Miss Carlotti. He looks at me. And he puts it on. He ties the pink ribbons behind his back. The room breaks. Miss Carlotti cackles. The other ladies start teasing him in a mix of Italian and rapid-fire English, patting him on the arm, telling him he is too skinny, ordering him to start chopping onions for the salad, and he does it. He's clumsy with the knife, clearly out of his element, but he is doing it. The ice does not just break, it shatters into 1,000 pieces. For 2 hours, he's not the boss. He's just Riven, the handsome, quiet man who cannot chop an onion to save his life. Later, I find him at the massive 3-bay industrial sink, sleeves rolled up his forearms, deep in soap suds. You missed a spot, I say, holding up a greasy pot. He takes it from me without a word, his hands working the scrub brush. I watch him for a moment. He's focused, methodical, the same way he probably runs his empire, while he is washing. I see Tobin slip out the back door. My brother was supposed to be helping serve. A knot of dread tightens in my stomach. I slip out after him, but Riven sees me go. I find Tobin in the alley, under the same kind of flickering yellow light as the one in my parking lot. He's handing a thick white envelope to a man I do not recognize. The man is all sharp angles and nervous energy. He snatches the envelope, counts the cash inside, and stuffs it into his jacket. That's all I have. Toby, the man hisses. You tell them. You tell them it's a start. It's not for them, Tobin says, his voice shaking. It's for something else. Before I can step out, Riven is there. He did not follow me. He anticipated me. He puts a hand on my arm, holding me back in the shadows of the doorway. He just watches. He observes the transaction, clocking the nervous man, my brother's desperation. He does not intervene. He does not handle it. He just gathers the information, his face a mask of neutral assessment. The man scurries away. Tobin slumps against the wall, rubbing his face. We go back inside. The night winds down. The wind picks up outside, carrying the cold smell of the river. Thank you, I say to Riven, as he unties the apron. You fed them, he says. I just cleaned up. As we drive back, the city looks dark and menacing. The night at the shelter feels like a dream. The reality of Tobin, of the 48-hour deadline, crashes back in. Courtesy, I murmur, mostly to myself. What he asks. I look at him, the man who can command lawyers and face down thugs, standing in a kitchen wearing a pink apron, scrubbing pots, sometimes, I say. Politeness is scarier than a fist. I don't know which one you are. Riven? He does not answer. He just drives, his hands steady on the wheel. Miles away, in a concrete basement beneath a gleaming high-rise, Sloane Hargrave lights a cigar. He stares at a large architectural model of the new riverfront. It is all glass towers and pristine parks, built precisely where the river mouth shelter and my apartment building now stand. He picks up a rolled-up blueprint, the original plan, and holds it to the flame of his lighter. The paper curls, turning black. Eamon Pike stands beside him. Calder bought her 14 days. Sir, a legal trick. Hargrave laughs, a dry, humorless sound. He drops the burning blueprint into a metal wastebasket. The flames lick at the names of the old streets. A waitress, Sloane Hargrave says, blowing a perfect ring of smoke. A little, insignificant waitress is holding up my plans. Let her have her 14 days. Let her feel safe. The fall is so much harder from a high ledge. The email arrives at 2 a.m. I have 12 days left on my eviction notice, but only 12 hours left on Tobin's deadline from the Peregrine rooms. The two numbers circle each other in my head like sharks. I am sitting at my tiny kitchen table, the laptop's blue light painting my face in shades of exhaustion. My search history is a graveyard of dead ends, quick cash, high-interest loans, pawn shops. The inbox pings. It is not spam. The sender is Rhea Klein. The subject is Riverfront Project Irregularities, and the sender's domain is mafca.gov. The Mid-Atlantic Financial Crimes Authority, the name from Riven Calder's impossible business card. My hand trembles as I click it. The email is short, sterile, and terrifying. It references the recent administrative holds on several riverfront accounts Hargrave's project. It mentions anomalies in cryptocurrency transactions. It invites confidential collaboration from any concerned local parties. Attached is a single, password-protected file. The password is in the body of the email, Steelwater, the name of the bridge Hargrave wants to tear down. This is not a coincidence. This is a message. I open the file. It is not a simple document. It is a complex ledger, a spiderweb of shell corporations and digital wallets. My macroeconomics class suddenly feels chillingly relevant. I follow the money, the fractional crypto payments moving from Oraline Partners, a name I do not know, to contractors for the Riverfront project. Then I see it. Buried deep in the subcontractor payments are massive, recurring invoices for logistics and site security. The vendor listed is the Calder Consortium. My blood runs cold. The invoices are fake. I can tell. The dates are too clean, the amounts too round, the services too vague. They are textbook false billings. The money is being routed through Riven's company, tagged, and then sent to an offshore wallet. This is not an investigation. It is a frame. Hargrave is not just trying to bankrupt Riven. He is building a federal case against him, brick by brick. And this email, from the very agency Riven fronted on his card, is either a warning or the bait. Is Rhea Klein Riven's person trying to show me the game, or is she part of Hargrave's trap, trying to lure me into acting as a false witness? Before I can process it, a news alert flashes on my screen. Disturbance at Greywater Yard, suspected container robbery. Brimridge PD reports no leads. Greywater Yard, Calder's main shipping hub. Hargrave is hitting him on the street and on the spreadsheets at the same time. The police are quiet. Of course they are. This is a war, and the city is just the battlefield. A key scratches in my lock. Tobin stumbles in, his face pale and slick with sweat. Tob, where have you been, those men? I can fix it. Maris, he's high on a desperate energy I have never seen before. I got a call. I can clear the debt, all of it. I have to do something. Do what, Tobin? You are in over your head. This is Hargrave. This is the Peregrine rooms. I know, just trust me. I have to go meet someone. At the rail yard. No. My voice is flat. Absolutely not. You are not going anywhere. You cannot stop me. Maris, this is the only way. He shoves past me, grabs his thin jacket, and bolts, slamming the door behind him. I grab my own coat, my sneakers, and the canister of pepper spray I carry home from the diner. I follow him. I keep a block behind, melting into the pre-dawn shadows of the warehouses and the dying mills. The rail yard is a metal graveyard, rows and rows of rusting freight cars silent under the sickly yellow security lamps. A fine rain is falling, smelling of iron and river water. I see Tobin standing near a switching station, looking small and terrified. A man emerges from between two boxcars. It is the same nervous, twitchy man I saw Riven watching in the alley behind the shelter. "You got it," the man hisses, looking around wildly. Got what he just said to meet. He said Pike. Tobin stammers. "Idiot. He said you were the mule." The man shoves a small, silver USB drive into Tobin's hand. "Give this to Pike. He's at the main switching tower. He'll clear your debt. Just give it to him. And do not, under any circumstances, get caught with it." Tobin stares at the drive as if it is a snake. He is a lure, a disposable pawn sent to carry something from one lieutenant to another. "Now go," the nervous man barks, before disappearing back into the shadows. Tobin starts walking, his feet crunching on the gravel. I move to follow, to pull him back, but a shadow detaches itself from the side of a massive engine car. "Riven Calder?" He's not in a suit. He's in dark cargo pants and a black Henley, clothes made for moving in the dark. He does not see me. He's focused only on my brother. "That is not the way out of your trouble, kid," Riven says, his voice a low rumble. Tobin spins around, his face a mask of pure terror. He sees Riven, and he does the stupidest thing possible. He runs. He bolts down the line of tracks, away from the switching tower, deeper into the maze of steel. Riven pursues him, not even breathing hard, just eating up the ground with long, relentless strides. "Tobin, stop," I scream, "breaking cover." A sharp crack splits the air. It echoes off the metal, loud as a cannon. A bullet sparks off the rail, exactly where Tobin was a second before. I do not think. I just move. I slam my shoulder into Tobin's back, tackling him off his feet. We crash onto the greasy ballast stones between the tracks. Another shot, a flash of light from a catwalk high above us. Eamon Pike, he's up there with a hunting rifle. This was never a handover. It was an execution, or an ambush. Before the echo of the second shot fades, Riven is on top of us. He shoves us bodily behind the massive iron wheel of a parked freight car, shielding us with his own back. The air thrums with menace. His hand is suddenly holding a gun. He's a different man from the one in the apron. This is the man who owns the shadows. He fires once, a single, controlled explosion, aimed into the darkness toward the muzzle flash. There is no cry, just a metallic clang and the sound of someone scrambling away. "We have to go, now!" Riven growls. The drive Tobin is hyperventilating, his eyes crazy with fear. I dropped it. He will kill me. Pike will kill me. He points, scrambling. There. In the dim light is the USB. It landed in a thick black puddle of iridescent sludge and rainwater in the ditch beside the track. Tobin freezes, too terrified to move. Pike is still up there. That drive is the key. The map to Hargrave's cold wallet. The one from the email. It has to be. Before Riven can stop me, I lunge. I drop to my knees and plunge my right arm into the freezing, putrid muck. Shoulder deep. My fingers brush something solid. I grab it. I pull my arm out, clutching the silver drive, but the victory is cut short by a sharp, searing pain. I cry out. The sludge is not just oil. It is chemical runoff from the yard. It is burning my skin. A cold, acidic fire. Reckless, Riven snarls, his voice tight with a terrifying anger. He hauls me to my feet. He rips off his own dark jacket and wraps it tightly around my arm, smothering the burn, ignoring the black filth sliming his expensive clothes. In the distance, sirens begin to wail, but it is not the familiar sound of the Brimridge PD. It is a deeper, European-style wail. AMCD, Riven says, his voice grim. Appalachian Major Crimes Directorate. Hargrave's personal police force? He yanks open a heavy iron grate set into the concrete floor of the ditch, a service tunnel. Move, now. He shoves Tobin toward the opening. I hesitate, looking back up at the catwalk. Eamon Pike is standing there, silhouetted against the yard lights. He's not shooting. He's on a walkie-talkie, calling in the sirens. My blood freezes. The lawyer, the eviction notice, the muscle in the rail yard, the man calling and the crooked cops. Pike was not just trying to kill Tobin, and he was trapping Riven, planning to have him found at the scene of the Greywater robbery, holding the stolen drive, with the AMCD arriving just in time to make the arrest. Riven grabs my good arm. Maris, go! He pulls me down into the darkness of the tunnel. I am underground, my arm throbbing, wrapped in Riven Calder's jacket. The USB drive is heavy and cold in my other hand. He saved us, but the Mafka card he gave me led me straight to the evidence that is framing him. He knew about Greywater. He knew about the USB. I am caught in his war. I look at the man leading us through the dark, and I cannot tell if I have just been rescued by a victim or captured by a king. The tunnel system spat us out 3 blocks away, into the flooded basement of the old Brimridge Central Post Office. The air was damp and cold, but it was safe. The AMCD sirens were a faint, frantic wail, fading in the wrong direction. Riven had made a single call in the tunnel, his voice clipped and low. Tobin was gone, intercepted by one of Calder's men at the tunnel exit and spirited away to a safe house. Now, it was just us. Riven led the way up endless flights of concrete stairs, his steps sure in the dark. We emerged onto the flat, tar-paper roof. The city spread out below us, a carpet of glittering, wet lights smeared by the lingering rain. It was beautiful, in a broken, industrial way. Sit, he said. It was an order, but his voice was strained. I sank onto a low brick ledge, the adrenaline finally draining, leaving behind a deep, seismic tremble. My right arm was on fire. The chemical burn felt like it was eating its way to the bone. Riven knelt in front of me. He had a compact first aid kit in his hand, pulled from a pocket of the jacket he had wrapped around my arm. This is going to hurt. It already hurts, I whispered. He unwrapped the jacket, his movements economical. The skin on my forearm was an angry, blistered red, weeping in the cold air. He took out a sterile water pouch and a gauze pack. His hands, the same hands I had seen hold a gun with absolute, lethal stillness, were trembling. It was just a micro-vibration, a tremor in his fingertips as he cleaned the wound, but in the tense silence of the rooftop, it was as loud as a shout. He worked without speaking, his focus absolute. He applied a thick, clear salve and wrapped my arm in clean, white bandages. The careful, almost gentle pressure of his touch was a strange counterpoint to the man who had pulled me into a sewer tunnel. "You grew up doing this," I said, my voice hoarse. He paused, taping the bandage. "What?" "Fighting in the dark, knowing where the tunnels are, warehouses and rail yards." I looked at his hands, at the old, white scars that laced his knuckles. "You grew up in the shadows." He finished his work and sat back on his heels, looking out at the city lights. My world smelled like diesel and river water. I learned how to move cargo and how to protect it. He finally looked at me, his eyes reflecting the distant neon. "And you." My world smelled like burnt coffee and bleach. I said, "I learned how to smile when I was tired, how to carry too much at once, and how to spot the liars from the bullies." "Which one am I?" "I do not know yet," I said honestly, "but I know which one Hargrave is. He's just a bully with a bigger wallet." "The biggest," Riven said, his voice flat, "and they are the only kind I never learned to ignore. My father. He had one rule, never bow to a brute." A gust of cold wind swept across the roof, cutting through my thin shirt. I shivered violently. Riven stood up in one fluid motion. He took off his own heavy jacket, the one he'd used on my arm, now stained with grime and chemicals, and shook it out. He draped it over my shoulders. The lining was still warm from his body. It smelled of him something clean, metallic, and male. The sheer weight of it was a comfort, an anchor. I pulled it tighter, and the scent was overwhelming, intimate. The warmth radiated down my back, seeping into my skin. I leaned my head back against the cold brick, my heart, for the first time all night, slowing its frantic rhythm. It seemed to fall in sync with the distant, pulsing hum of the city, a rhythm I felt vibrating up from the roof, from the man standing next to me. He did not move away. He stood close, a solid presence in the dark, shielding me from the worst of the wind. The silence stretched, filled only by the sound of the city breathing below us. I turned my head to look at him. His profile was sharp against the glow of Brimridge. He was looking at me, his expression unreadable, but the coldness was gone. His eyes were dark, and they were asking a question, a simple, terrifying question that had nothing to do with Hargrave, or the USB drive now safe in my pocket, or the eviction notice. "Do you trust me?" I felt the answer before I understood it. My body, which had been coiled tight with fear, was slowly unspooling in his presence. My breath was steady. I lifted my good hand, the one that was not bandaged. I reached up and brushed a stray piece of damp hair off his forehead. My fingers were cold, but his skin was warm. I let my hand linger for a half-second, my thumb resting on his temple. It was the only answer I had. Yes. He breathed in, a sharp, quiet sound. He moved, but with a slowness that felt like a gift. His hand, the one that had been trembling, lifted. He placed it on the small of my back. It was a statement, not a demand. The heat of his palm soaked through my shirt, a point of contact that sent a jolt straight to my core. And then he paused. He waited. He held me there, his hand resting on my back, his eyes locked on mine, giving me every second I needed to pull away, to break the contact, to say no. I did not. I leaned into the touch. I closed the last few inches between us. My good hand, which was still resting on his jaw, curled slightly. I was pulling him closer. I saw his eyes darken. Our breaths mingled. Warm clouds in the cold night air. The kiss was not a collision. It was not a desperate, frantic thing born of the rail yard's violence. It was a landing. It was slow and deep and deliberate. It was a moment of absolute stillness in the center of the storm. His lips were firm, and they were asking, and I was answering. The taste of him was rain and iron and an impossible, grounding warmth, the city noise, the distant traffic. The whole world just fell away until there was nothing but the solidness of his body and the thud of his heart, which was hammering against my ribs. Or maybe that was mine. We broke apart, but only by an inch. Our foreheads rested together. His hand was still on my back, holding me steady. He had a canvas field blanket in his bag. He spread it on the flat tar paper, shielded from the wind by a large ventilation shaft. We sat, not lying down, but leaning back against the brickwork, his arm wrapped around me, pulling me against his side. I tucked my legs up, and he wrapped the other half of the blanket over us, cocooning us in shared warmth. We sat for a long time, watching the city lights flicker like distant, silent fireworks. My fingers found his, and our hands interlaced on the blanket. "What if the storm comes tomorrow, Riven?" I whispered, the words muffled against his shoulder. I felt his chest rise and fall. "Then tonight," he said, his voice rough, "we remember the warmth." A small, strangled sound escaped my throat. It might have been a laugh or a sob. He tightened his arm around me, this close. I could see the details I missed in the diner, the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the way one of his eyebrows arched slightly higher than the other, and the scars, the old, pale lines on his knuckles, but also a thin, white scar that ran from his temple into his hairline. I traced it with my fingertip. This was not a fight over logistics. He caught my hand, lacing his fingers through mine again. No. He looked at my bandaged arm, at the grit under my fingernails. "You have them too. They are just on the inside." He saw it. He saw the soft, tired places. But he also saw the part of me that refused to break, the part that yelled at him in the diner, the part that plunged my arm into chemical waste. 2 rules, I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. If we do this, if we fight him together, 2 rules. He waited, his body still. No lies, not to me, ever. I have been lied to enough by men who thought they were protecting me. I want the truth. All right, he said, his voice a low vibration against my ear. And no violence. I said, not to punish, not against the weak. I will not be part of that. I was thinking of Lucy, the dishwasher, of my neighbors at the shelter. He was quiet for a moment. He looked out at the gleaming, arrogant tower where Sloane Hargrave kept his office. He broke that rule first. That is what makes us different, I insisted, pulling back just enough to see his face. It has to... He held my gaze, and I saw the internal war he was fighting. Finally, he nodded. No lies, and we fight for the weak, not against them. That is the agreement. This is not just business for you, is it? I asked, the last piece clicking into place. Hargrave, Pike, the frame-up, the Mafia card. You knew this was coming. Riven let out a long, slow breath. The sound was full of old grief. No, it is not just business. Sloane Hargrave. He did this before. To a man who was like my brother. My first partner, Hargrave used Pike to bury him in lawsuits, used the AMCD to frame him for extortion. He bankrupted him, ruined him, and then he left him no way out. He clenched his free hand into a fist, his knuckles going white. He was not a victim. He was pushed. He was cornered until he had nowhere else to go. What Hargrave did, that was not business. That was murder. He owes me a life. He looked at me, and all the quiet, the control was gone from his eyes. In its place was a raw, cold void. This is a blood debt, and I am here to collect. The truce, born on the rooftop, lasted less than 12 hours. The morning news feed was a slap in the face. The Brimridge City Council had held an emergency vote. Sloane Hargrave's new riverfront project was approved, unanimously. The measure passed with a rider expediting the eviction process for the entire Rivermouth district. My 14 days were gone. Everyone's time was gone. It was a political execution. I was staring at the headline on my phone, the coffee in my mug cold and bitter. When Riven's name flashed on the screen, it was not a call. It was a link, forwarded from a dozen different local blogs. I clicked it. It was an audio file. Don't care about his politics. The Longshoremen's Union needs to understand who runs Greywater Yard. Make an example of him. I want him off the board, permanently. The voice was Riven's. I would know it anywhere. That low, precise cadence, the slight gravel, the absolute authority. A news anchor's voice followed, smooth and serious. This shocking audio, allegedly of logistics magnate Riven Calder, was released anonymously this morning. It comes just 1 day after Art Donovan, the union leader who publicly opposed the riverfront project, was brutally attacked outside his home. Mr. Donovan is currently in critical condition. My phone slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the table. No lies. That was our rule, and he had looked at me, his eyes raw with the memory of his dead partner, and told me he had a blood debt. Make an example of him, the words echoed in my head. I felt sick. I had been on that roof, wrapped in his blanket, trusting the warmth in his hands, while he was ordering a man beaten half to death. The intimacy we shared felt suddenly dirty, like a trick. I grabbed the Mafia card. I had to know. I had to see the whole board. I emailed Rhea Klein. I have the drive from the rail yard. I have information. Meet me. She replied in 10 minutes. Brimridge Public Library, History Section, Local Archives, 1 hour. The library was quiet, smelling of floor wax and old paper. Rhea Klein was not what I expected. She was young, sharp, and looked more like a stressed doctoral student than a federal agent. She wore glasses and had her hair pulled back in a severe bun. "You are Maris Ellery," she stated, not looking up from a microfiche reader. "You are Rhea Klein. Let me see the drive." I passed it to her. She plugged it into a small, encrypted tablet, her fingers flying over the screen. This is the map," she whispered, her eyes wide. "This is Hargrave's main cold storage wallet. We knew it existed, but we could not find the key." "That is not all," I said. I told her about the file she sent me. The shell company, Oraline Partners. "Oraline," she said, typing. "Yes. The primary money laundering vehicle. We are building a case, but it is slow. Hargrave has half the city council and all of the AMCD in his pocket. He's insulated." "He's using Riven Calder," I said, the words tasting like ash. "He's framing him. The invoices, the crypto payments, they are being routed through Calder's books." "We know," Rhea said, finally looking at me. "Hargrave is playing a brilliant, vicious game. He's using Calder's scary reputation against him. He washes his dirty money through the consortium's legitimate accounts, making it look like Calder is his partner. Then, he has you." She tapped the USB drive. "Steal the evidence of their partnership from a Calder-owned rail yard. He frames Calder for the theft, for the money laundering, and for the attack on Donovan. By the time we unravel it, Hargrave will be clean. Calder will be in federal prison, and the riverfront will be built." "So the audio is fake," I said, a desperate hope rising in my chest. The audio. Rhea looked confused. "What audio?" I told her. Her face hardened. "He is accelerating. That is new. And it is smart. It turns public opinion, forces the feds to move faster. Hargrave is not just building a case, he is lighting a fire under it." "How do we stop him?" "We need the final link," Rhea said. "We have the dirty money in Oraline. We have the fake invoices hitting Calder's accounts. We need to prove who authorized those transfers. We need the signature on the digital gateway." I sat down at a public terminal. My mind was racing, connecting my macroeconomics lectures with the dirty reality of Hargrave City, a gateway, a digital signature. "Eamon Pike," I said. Rhea looked up. "The lawyer. He is just muscle." "No," I said, my fingers flying over the keyboard, pulling up the original Mafia file. "He's not. When my building was sold, he was the plaintiff. He was the one who authorized the sale, the eviction. He is Hargrave's legal agent." I pointed to the screen, at the complex transaction code for the crypto gateway. This gateway was set up through a third-party validator, Pike Legal and Consulting. He did not just serve the eviction, Rhea, he built the digital door. He is the one signing off on the fake invoices. He is the technician, the lawyer, and the thug. A cold, clear understanding settled over me. Pike was the linchpin. A shadow fell over the computer screen. "You should not be here." I spun around. Riven was standing 2 feet away, his face a mask of cold fury. He was not looking at me. He was looking at Rhea Klein. "This is my source." "Calder," Rhea said, standing up, putting herself between us. "You will back off." "Your source is compromised. Get out," Riven's voice was lethal. He did not trust her. He did not trust anyone. Rhea looked at me, then at him. She gathered her things. "He is playing you both. Do not let him." She slipped the USB drive into her pocket. "I have what I need. Stay alive. Maris." She walked away, disappearing into the stacks. "What did you do?" Riven grabbed my good arm, his fingers biting. "What did you do?" I shot back. Yanking my arm free, I heard the audio. Riven make an example of him. "Was that before or after you told me you did not hurt the weak?" His face went rigid. It was a fake. Maris, a deep fake. Hargrave is painting me as a monster. Is he? Or is he just painting you? I was breathing hard, the betrayal and the hope warring inside me. "You said it was a blood debt. I believed you." "It is a blood debt," he hissed, pulling me into the narrow aisle between shelves, his voice a low, furious whisper. "And he just put a good man in the hospital. He used my voice to do it. He's trying to bury me." "So, we fight him," I said. "I found the link. It is Pike. He is the one signing the transfers. We give it to Rhea. We build the case. We use the light." "Light," he laughed, a short, bitter sound. "There is no light here. You cannot fight a monster like Hargrave with a task force and a spreadsheet. They will bury your evidence." They will discredit Rhea. They will arrest you. The only way to win is to cut the head off the snake." "What does that mean?" I asked, dreading the answer. "It means I find Eamon Pike. I take him to a quiet place, and I make him tell the truth. A street solution." I stared at him. The man from the rooftop felt 1,000,000 miles away. This was the man who had shot into the darkness at the rail yard. This was the man who ran the shadows. "No," I said. "We agreed. No violence." Our agreement did not account for this. He's moving too fast. He has the city. He has the cops. And he is coming for us. Deterrence is the only language he understands. Deterrence? You mean fear. You mean being the bigger bully. That is his language. Riven, not mine. If you do this, if you grab Pike and torture him in a warehouse, you are no better than he is. You are just the other side of the same dirty coin. And you, he said, his voice dropping, the anger replaced by a chilling quiet, are naive. You think the world is the sunset spoon. You think you can yell at the bully and he will just walk away. He will not. He will burn your diner to the ground with you inside it. The words hit me, stunning me into silence. The first true crack between us. It was not a fissure. It was a canyon. Our values, our worlds, they were not just different, they were incompatible. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text. It was from Tobin's number. My heart stopped. "Hey sis, found a way out. Online poker tournament, big money. Sponsored by the Peregrine Rooms. They said if I win, they will clear the debt, just need to prove my identity, they said." I read the rest of the message, my blood turning to ice. They said I need to give them the password to a cold storage wallet to verify my assets. I tried to guess, but I got locked out. Can you help? It was a trap. A blatant, clumsy trap to get the password for the drive I just gave Rhea. "Tobin," I whispered. I dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail. "He is gone. Hargrave has him." Riven read the text over my shoulder, his entire body going rigid. "He's luring him in," Riven said, his voice dangerously soft. "He thinks Tobin has the drive. He's going to trade your brother for that password." I bolted from the library, Riven right behind me. I ran all the way to the Sunset Spoon. It was the only other place Tobin might go. I burst through the door and froze. The diner was ransacked. Chairs were overturned, and it was full of uniforms. AMCD. Stan, my manager, was sitting in a booth, wringing his hands, talking to a grim-faced detective. "I told you, Stan was whining. I do not know anything Calder just comes in. He pays for things. He's a patron. He takes care of us. A benefactor." The detective looked up as I entered. His eyes were cold. A benefactor. Or does he run protection? Is this diner part of his laundromat, ma'am? He took a step toward me. "Maris Ellery, we have a warrant to seize your apartment's computers, and we have a few questions for you about your association with Riven Calder and the attack on Art Donovan." I was trapped. The AMCD was here. Stan was folding, Tobin was missing, and the man I had kissed on a rooftop was standing behind me, promising a street solution that I could not stomach. I was boxed in by Hargrave's lies. I looked at the detective. I looked at Riven, his face a granite mask of controlled rage. I had to choose, not his darkness, not their lies, my own path. "I have to go," I said to Riven, my voice barely a whisper. He saw the decision in my eyes. He saw me choosing the data, choosing Rhea Klein, choosing the light, even if it meant running from him. "They will hunt you, Maris." "They are already here." I said. I backed away. Toward the kitchen exit. I have to find Tobin. I have to get to Rhea. I will do this my way. The detective called my name. "Miss Ellery, stop." Riven did not move. He did not try to stop me. He just held my gaze, his promise from the rooftop now feeling like a curse. He let me go. As I slipped out the back alley, his voice followed me, low and certain, a vow in the middle of the chaos. "When you call," he said, "I will come. I am running. My lungs burn with the cold night air. I ducked out of the diner's back alley just as the AMCD detectives burst through the kitchen doors. I am a fugitive. My face is about to be plastered on every news feed, labeling me as Calder's accomplice, the woman who attacked a union leader. I am hiding in the service entrance of an apartment building, 3 blocks away, my bandaged arm throbbing, my mind racing. Tobin, Hargrave has him. That fake poker text was the lure. He is bait in a trap meant for me. My phone vibrates, a new number, encrypted, anonymous. The message is one line. Tobin is at the SkyTrain depot, technical level, come alone, or he pays the price. It is the trap, sprung and waiting. Pike knows I will not go to the clean cops, not while Tobin's life is on the line. He knows I will not call Riven, not after our fight. He's counting on me to be desperate, stupid, and alone. He is right about the first part. I cannot call for help. I cannot trust the AMCD, and I cannot call Riven and ask him to unleash his street solution. This is my fight. The SkyTrain depot is the central hub, a massive, elevated station that cuts through the heart of the city. I know it. I know the public levels, and I know the back hallways where the cleaning crews keep their supplies. I slip through the crowds at the main terminal, my head down. I find a janitorial closet near the restrooms. The lock is simple. 2 minutes later, I'm wearing a faded blue janitor's jumpsuit that smells like ammonia, my hair stuffed under a baseball cap. The cleaning cart is my shield. I push it toward the employees-only elevator, my heart a cold. Heavy stone in my chest. The technical level is a different world. It is dark, a cavern of exposed girders and humming transformers. The air smells of ozone and metal. The only sound is the deep, rhythmic whump, whump, whump of the massive industrial fans that ventilate the tunnels below. I push the cart, its wheels squeaking, the sound echoing in the vast space. I am terrified, but a cold, sharp anger cuts through it. This ends tonight. As I move past a row of silent, dark control rooms, I feel a shift in the air, a presence. I stop. I look at the grimy reflection in the glass of a server room. A shadow detaches itself from a steel support beam, 50 feet behind me. My heart stops, then it restarts, hammering a new, complex rhythm. It is Riven. He is in the same dark clothes from the rail yard. He did not wait for my call. He was already here. He was tracking me. He knew where I would go. He knew. He holds up a hand, a silent signal, and melts back into the shadows. He's not here to take over. He's here to watch. He's here to honor his promise, even when I broke mine and ran. I find the room from the text, Substation 7. I push the door open. It is a vast, dark chamber dominated by the roaring fans, and in the center, tied to a steel-legged chair, is Tobin. His eyes are wide with terror, duct tape sealing his mouth. He is pale, shaking, but he is not beaten. He is not bleeding. Hargrave is meticulous. He does not want a martyr. He wants a bargaining chip. I run to him, my hands pulling at the tape. Toby, it is okay. I am here. I am touched. The voice is smooth, amused. Eamon Pike steps out from behind a massive electrical cabinet. He's holding a phone, and he is smiling. Right on time. Maris, I knew you were the dependable one. Let him go. Pike? Of course. It is a simple trade. The cold wallet for the brother. He gestures to Tobin. Sloan is very keen to secure his assets. Give me the drive. Maris. I do not have it, I say. Pike's smile wavers. Do not lie to me. We tracked you to the library. We know you met Klein. We know you have it. She has it. I say, the federal agent, you are too late. Pike's face darkens. He sees the trap he laid for Riven snapping shut on Hargrave instead. 2 men in dark suits. Hargrave's private muscle step out from the shadows behind him. They are not Pike's polished security. These are the men from my parking lot. Then you are useless to me, Pike says, his voice losing its slippery charm, turning cold, and so is he. Clean it up. The 2 men move toward me. It is over in less than 5 seconds. Riven does not emerge from the shadows. He drops from them. He was on an overhead gantry, a steel catwalk I never even saw. He lands behind the first man, a silent predator. There is a sound, not a punch, but a sharp, sickening snap of a joint being forced the wrong way. The man collapses without a sound. The second man spins, fumbling for a weapon inside his coat. Riven is already moving inside the man's reach, a blur of motion, an elbow strike to the collarbone, a precise, brutal kick to the side of the knee. The man goes down, his leg buckling. No gunshots, no blood, just two bodies on the concrete. Riven looks at me, his face grim. He kept his word. I am already sawing at Tobin's ropes with the utility knife from the janitor's cart. Pike is backing away, his face pale with shock. "You," he snarls at Riven. "You were supposed to be the one AMCD found." "Plans change," Riven says, his voice a low growl. Pike's eyes dart around, looking for an escape. He's not a fighter. He's a snake. He lunges, not for us, but for a red fire alarm box on the wall. He smashes the glass. "Fire system activated. Evacuate! Evacuate!" Klaxons blare, red lights flash, and from vents in the ceiling, a thick, white, chemical smoke begins to pour, obscuring everything. It is not a fire, it is a smokescreen. Chaos, his favorite tool. Riven yells over the alarm. He grabs my good arm. "This way. Utility corridor." I haul Tobin to his feet. He's barely functional. His legs like water, sobbing with relief and terror. We plunge into a narrow, metal-walled hallway. The smoke is thick, choking, the alarm a screaming pulse in our ears. I am pulling Tobin. Riven is behind us, guarding our escape. A shape lunges from a side passage. It is the first guard, the one Riven dropped. He is back on his feet, his arm dangling at a broken angle, his face a mask of rage. He's swinging a heavy, rusted length of steel pipe. I try to yank Tobin out of the way. Riven shoves us both hard, pushing us past him, into the clear. He takes the blow himself. The pipe connects with his back and shoulder with a sickening, wet thud. I hear the crack of metal on bone. Riven cries out, a sharp, guttural sound of pain. He stumbles, his knees buckling, but he does not fall. He straightens, his face pale, breathing hard. He turns, disarms the man with a single, vicious movement, and shoves him back into the smoky hallway. "Go," he snarls at me. He's hurt, badly, but he is still moving, still pushing us forward. We burst through a final door, tumbling onto the main passenger platform. It is chaos. The alarms are blaring, civilians are running, and the platform is flooded with uniforms. AMCD, dozens of them swarming up the escalators, weapons drawn. "We are trapped," I gasp, pulling Tobin behind me. "No." Riven leans against the wall, breathing through the pain, but his eyes are sharp. "Look again, Maris, look at their faces." I look. He's right. These are not the cold, dead-eyed detectives from the diner. These officers look alert, professional, scanning the crowd. Their commander, a woman with a severe face, spots us. She does not raise her weapon, she nods. Once. My phone rings. It is an unknown number, but I answer it. "Do not run. Maris, it is Rhea Klein, her voice calm in the storm. Stay put. They are mine. I pulled in the State Integrity Task Force. They are clean." The AMCD commander is shouting orders, securing the platform, ignoring us completely. They are not here for Riven. They are not here for me. "Pike!" Riven growls, scanning the crowd. He is gone, vanished. The alarms, the smoke, the chaos. It was all a brilliant, selfish distraction for his own escape. Then I see it. On the floor, near the top of the escalator, is another silver USB drive. It is identical to the one I found in the rail yard. Riven limps over and picks it up, holding it between two fingers. "A decoy," he says, his voice tight with pained respect. "Pike left it for us. He knew we would be here. He knew we would find it. This is not the wallet. Maris, this is a virus. This is the match to burn the evidence." Tobin is safe. Rhea is here. The clean cops are here. We have the real data. But Hargrave is still untouched. Pike, his linchpin, has slipped through our fingers. We are standing on the platform, the alarms finally winding down. We won the battle, but Hargrave is still winning the war. I look at Riven. He's leaning against the wall, his arm hanging uselessly, his shirt dark with blood under his jacket. But he is watching me. He will be at the Mercury Gala tonight, I say, the idea forming cold and hard and clear. He will be at the Gaslamp Museum, accepting awards for his new riverfront. He will be surrounded by politicians and photographers. Riven's eyes narrow. He sees where I'm going. He thinks he is safest in the light, surrounded by his powerful friends, I say, my voice shaking, but not with fear, with rage. That is where we take him down. Not in a rail yard, not in a tunnel. We do it in front of everyone. We turn his biggest strength into his greatest weakness. The Gaslamp Museum was a fortress of old money and smug history. The Mercury Gala was in full swing, a glittering sea of diamonds and black ties, all gathered to celebrate the man who was actively destroying the city's foundation. I hated it. I hated the smell. A cloying mix of expensive perfume and floor wax, so different from the honest, burnt grease smell of the spoon. "Audio check, Maris." Rhea Klein's voice was a tinny whisper in the micro earpiece hidden in my ear. I'm patched into the museum security feed, but Hargrave's personal tech is a black box." I pushed a heavy catering trolley loaded with champagne flutes. My borrowed, ill-fitting black uniform already itching. I'm in the main hall. I see the target. It was disgusting. In the center of the atrium, under the soft glow of the authentic gas lamps, was a massive holographic model of the new riverfront. It glowed blue and white, a sterile, alien city imposed on the neighborhood I called home. And standing beside it, accepting congratulations like a king, was Sloane Hargrave. "The Clean AMCD team, the task force, is on the perimeter," Rhea continued, her voice tight. "They have a sealed warrant for Hargrave, but it's useless without live, undeniable proof. We need the unbalanced ledger from that console. We need to prove he is the one moving the money to Oraline Partners. You have to get that file." Then I saw Riven. He was not my Riven. He was not the man in the dark Henley, or the man in the ruffled Kiss the Cook apron. He was Riven Calder, the magnate. He wore a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. It fit him like armor. His left arm was in a subtle black silk sling, pinned immaculately against his chest, the injury from the pipe hidden but present. He moved through the crowd, and people parted for him, murmuring his name. He looked like them, but his eyes were not schmoozing. They were hunting. "Calder is in," Rhea whispered. "He's moving to intercept. Maris, get to the console. Now!" I pushed my cart along the edge of the room, my sneakers silent on the marble. I kept my head down. Just another invisible server. Riven cut off Hargrave mid-laugh. "Sloane, an impressive display." Hargrave turned, his smile freezing and resetting. "Riven, I'm surprised you came. I heard you had a significant union dispute." He was mocking him, referencing the fake audio. "Just logistics," Riven said, his voice smooth as cold steel. He glanced at the holographic model. "You know how it is. Sometimes you have to take out the trash to keep the operation clean." The double meaning hung in the air, sharp as a knife. I reached the console. It was dark. I wiped a stray smudge off the screen with my cloth, my fingers searching for a port, a connection. I tapped the screen. It lit up. A single prompt biometric scan required. "Place hand here." My blood turned to ice. "Rhea," I whispered, my lips barely moving. "It's locked. Biometrics. A handprint scanner. I cannot get in." There was a sharp hiss of indrawn breath in my ear. Damn it, he's paranoid. He must be the only one who can access the master file from this console. He changed it at the last minute. What do I do? "You have to get his print. Maris, there's no other way." I looked at my cart, at the rows of empty, polished glasses. My heart was a drum. I pulled a small silver tray from the bottom rack. I took the cleanest, most delicate champagne flute and polished it again with my cloth, wiping away every possible smudge. My hands were shaking. I palmed the small, square print scanner Rhea had given me, sticking it to the underside of the tray. directly beneath where the glass would sit. Riven and Hargrave were in a quiet, vicious verbal spar. Ethics are a luxury. Riven, results are permanent, Hargrave was saying, sipping his drink. This city needs a strong hand, not a sentimental one. A strong hand or a greedy one, Riven countered. I took a breath. I put the clean flute on the tray and stepped forward, moving into the circle of their power. Mr. Hargrave, my voice was low, steady. More champagne? Hargrave was annoyed by the interruption. He glanced at me, his eyes skating right over my face, dismissing me as part of the furniture. Yes, fine. He did not even look. He was still glaring at Riven. He handed me his empty glass and took the full one, his fingers, thick and ringed, wrapped around the delicate bowl of the flute. As I was saying, Riven, the problem with your father's legacy is that he never knew when to fold. Hargrave took a long, arrogant sip. He held the glass. He gestured with it. My entire world narrowed to that glass, to his fingerprints burning into the crystal. He finished it, and without looking, placed the empty glass back on my silver tray, right on target. I nodded, "Sir." I turned away. My legs felt like water. I got to my cart, parked in a shadowed alcove. I slid the tray onto the rack, my hands fumbling as I triggered the scanner. A tiny, almost invisible green light flashed once. "Print acquired," Daria whispered, her voice shaking with triumph. "I'm synthesizing a transfer key. Get back to the console. Riven needs to keep him busy. It will take me a minute to crack the interface." I pushed the cart back toward the display. "The real problem, Sloan," Riven was saying, "is that your foundation is built on sand. You erase the people. People are replaceable. Concrete is legacy." I was almost there, just a few more feet. A hand shot out and grabbed my arm. My good arm. "You," the voice was a low, vicious hiss. I froze. I looked up. It was one of Hargrave's men, not the polished security in blazers. This was the man from the rail yard, the one whose arm Riven had broken. His face was pale with recognition and pure, distilled hatred. "I know you," he snarled, his grip tightening. "You're the waitress." The polite conversation stopped. Hargrave turned. Riven turned. Every head nearby swiveled. The guard was grinning, sensing his victory, dragging me into the spotlight. "Boss," the guard said, his eyes glittering. "This is the one. The girl from the Sunset Spoon, the one who yelled at Calder." Hargrave's eyes lit up with a cruel, delighted amusement. He looked from me to Riven. "Oh, is that so?" He chuckled. "Riven, you are letting your associates run wild. Bad for business." I was trapped. My cover was blown. Everything was lost. Riven did not look at Hargrave. He looked at the guard's meaty hand, squeezing my arm. His voice was perfectly calm, perfectly cold. "Let her go." The guard hesitated, his grin faltering, caught between two bosses. Riven took one slow, deliberate step forward. The pain from his shoulder must have been a white-hot agony, but his face was a mask of bored indifference. He smiled, a smile that did not touch his eyes. "She's with me." The words landed like stones in the silent room. The power dynamic of the entire gala shifted on that single phrase. It was a claim, a shield, a vow. Hargrave's amusement vanished, replaced by a sharp, calculating confusion. The guard's face went white. He knew he had just made a terminal mistake. Riven reached out with his good hand. He did not grab. He gently, almost politely, took the guard's wrist and lifted his fingers from my arm, as if removing a piece of lint. As the guard's hand fell away, Riven's fingers brushed mine. It was a fraction of a second, a bare whisper of skin on skin, but a jolt of pure, unadulterated energy shot up my arm. It was a current of courage. I am here. It is not over. Riven turned back to Hargrave, dismissing the guard as if he were nothing. "As I was saying, Sloan, your security seems agitated. Perhaps you should offer them some champagne." The distraction was back. The guard scrambled away. I was invisible again. I got to the console. In my ear, Rhea said. "He bought you the time. Key is synthesized. I'm sending it to the cloner on your cart. Get it and press it to the scanner." I retrieved the thin, translucent patch. I walked back, turned my body to shield the console, and pressed the patch to the scanner. "Scan accepted. Welcome, S. Hargrave." "I'm in." Rhea's voice was electric. "Oh, my God, he's got it all here. Oraline, the offshore accounts, Pike's digital signature authorizations. It is the whole playbook. I am downloading. This is big. Maris, it's going to take a minute. Keep them occupied." I straightened up, my hands shaking so hard I had to grip the cart. The download bar was on a tiny screen hidden beneath the champagne bucket. 20%, 30. "You talk about legacy," Riven was saying, his voice resonating with a new, cold power. "But all I see is a thief. You stole my friend's life. You stole this neighborhood's future. You stole my name and tried to pin your filth on it." "Strong words," Hargrave sneered, "but they are just words. I have the votes. I have the city." 50%, Rhea whispered. "He's got a partition bypassing, 70%, 80. Hargrave suddenly stopped talking. He stopped smiling. He tilted his head, a strange, predatory look on his face. He was looking at the console. The small green active light was blinking rapidly. 87%, Rhea hissed. 93. Hargrave's smile was gone. He looked at Riven. He looked at me. Really looked at me. The invisibility cloak gone. He looked back at the console. "Riven," Hargrave said, his voice terrifyingly soft. "Do you hear ticking?" 97% he's firewalling, he knows. A piercing, deafening security alarm blared through the museum. Red lights began to flash, cutting through the warm, historic glow of the gas lamps. Lockdown, breach in progress. "They cut the connection," Rhea screamed in my ear. "The AMCD is moving in. They have to. The alarm triggered the warrant. Get out of there. Maris, get the device." I looked at the screen. Download failed. 97%. Failed. We had failed. In the chaos, guests were screaming and running. Hargrave was instantly surrounded by his security, moving quickly toward a private exit. Riven was lost in the stampede. I acted on pure, bitter instinct. I grabbed the small, silver data cloner, the receiver, from its hiding spot. It was warm to the touch. I looked at my cart, at a tray of half-eaten, decadent pastries. I shoved the device deep into the center of a chocolate eclair, burying it in cream. I pushed the entire cart toward the swinging doors of the kitchen. As the clean AMCD task force burst through the main doors, I ripped off my apron and my name tag. I shoved them under the cart and walked out of the kitchen. Hands up, just another terrified gala guest. My heart shattered into a million pieces. The alarm's echo died, leaving a heavy, stunned silence in the grand hall of the museum. Guests huddled in corners, watched over by the clean AMCD task force. I found Rhea Klein near the ruined console, her face pale, her hands shaking as she unhooked a tablet. "I pulled the device from the cart," I said, my voice flat, holding out the chocolate-covered cloner. She took it, her expression grim as she plugged it in. "He's gone. Maris slipped out of a private basement exit into the old utility tunnels. They lead straight to the river." I looked across the room. Riven was standing by the shattered French doors, his tuxedo ruined, his bad shoulder hunched in pain. He was not looking at the cops. He was staring at the exit Hargrave had used, his face a mask of cold, controlled fury. "How much did we get?" I asked Rhea. Her eyes met mine, and my stomach dropped. 93%. Wow, it's a lot. Maris, it's enough to freeze his assets. Maybe, but the last 7%, it was a separate partition. The master signature file, the digital authorization from Pike that connects Hargrave directly to Oraline Partners. Without it, a good lawyer. "A good lawyer walks," I finished, the words tasting like acid. All this for nothing. Riven started moving, his long strides purposeful, heading for the service exit. "He's in the tunnels. He's not getting away." He was going after him, alone, injured, back to his world of shadows and street solutions. I ran. I cut him off at the door leading to the metal stairwell that descended into the museum's bowels. Riven, no. He stopped, his good hand resting on the doorframe. We were alone. The chaos of the gala a dull roar behind us. Here, in the stairwell, it was just the smell of rust, damp, and the faint, cold sound of the river below. Get out of my way, Maris. His voice was a low growl, devoid of all the warmth from the rooftop. This was the man who collected blood debts. You cannot, I pleaded, blocking his path. You're injured. He wants you to follow him. This is the trap. Riven, the one you warned me about. He'll have Pike. He'll have his men. He'll be waiting for you in the dark. That's his territory. It's my territory, too, he said, his eyes like chips of ice. I'm not letting him walk away. Not again, not after Donovan, not after my partner. He tried to push past me. I grabbed his good arm, my fingers digging in. And what if you do not walk out? The words ripped out of me, hot and desperate, echoing in the metal stairwell. Our breaths plumed in the cold air, inches apart. What if he's better in the dark? What if you're hurt, and he's not? What then? He wins. He has the city. He has the money. He gets away with everything. I don't care about the gala. Riven. I don't care about the file. If you go down there and he takes you, I lose. I'm not afraid of losing this fight. I'm terrified of losing you. He froze. The rage in his eyes did not just fade, it shattered. He stared at me, his expression broken, as if he'd just been struck. He saw the terror in my eyes, and he finally understood it was not for the mission, it was for him. He leaned his forehead against the cold steel door, his bad shoulder sagging. He let out a single, ragged breath. Maris. He straightened. The decision made, the rage was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp calculation. All right, not my way. He met my gaze. Your way. But we are not letting him go. What's the plan? My mind raced. He's in the tunnel. He thinks he's safe. He thinks he won. I looked at Riven. Your phone? At the gala? His boasting. Did you record him? A slow, dangerous smile crept onto his face. Always. He pulled out his phone. He was on a hot mic. There's an AV cart by the stage, I said, with a portable speaker. 2 minutes later, we were back at the stairwell. The tunnel entrance was a yawning black square that smelled of mildew and low tide. Riven connected his phone to the speaker and turned the volume to maximum. He hit play. Sloane Hargrave's voice, amplified and distorted, boomed into the darkness. Ethics are a luxury. Riven people are replaceable. Concrete is legacy. The sound echoed, a ghost in the machine, followed by his mocking laughter. We waited. The silence that fell afterward was heavier, more menacing than the sound itself. Riven's phone buzzed, a high-priority alert from his private network. His face hardened. He heard it, Riven said, his voice grim. He's panicked. He just put an open bounty on you. $500,000. To every freelance security operator in the city. The message, Maris Ellery. Silence her. Now. My blood ran cold. I was a target. Riven did not hesitate. He opened a different app, a secure channel. He spoke into his phone, and the man I kissed on the rooftop was gone, replaced by the kingpin of Brimridge. This is Calder. The bounty on Maris Ellery is void. Any man who acts on it, any man who even looks at her, will have his business in this state cut permanently, and they will answer directly to me. He snapped the phone shut. That buys us an hour. Maybe. The air between us crackled. We were on the precipice. I have to go down there, I said, my voice shaking but firm. Rhea said the signature file was on a separate partition. It's local. It must be in the riverfront data vault, the old utility plans. It's in these tunnels. No, Maris, it's a kill box. Then you go to the pier. He has to come out somewhere. The tunnel floods at high tide, go to the North Quay, cut off his escape. I looked at him. Your way, and my way. We meet in the middle. He stared at me, his eyes full of a new, raw fear. He grabbed my good arm. He pulled me out of the light into the shadows of the stairwell, and his mouth was on mine. It was not a tender kiss. It was not slow. It was brutal and fast and desperate. It was a collision, a frantic attempt to ground himself. His good hand tangled in my hair, his lips hard, demanding. It was salty with sweat, tasting of adrenaline and the metallic tang of fear. It was a promise to return and a prayer that I would be there. He broke it as fast as he started it, leaving me breathless, my lips stinging. He pressed his forehead to mine. "Do not you dare be reckless," he whispered. His voice "Don't," he whispered, his voice rough. "Don't you dare get shot," I whispered back. He was gone, a shadow in a ruined tuxedo, taking the stairs 2 at a time, heading for the street, for the pier, for his end of the fight. I grabbed a heavy-duty flashlight from the museum's emergency kit and stepped into the black, yawning maw of the tunnel. My phone vibrated. It was Rhea. "Maris, where are you? Hargrave's accounts are hemorrhaging. He's trying to move the money now. He's liquidating the riverfront fund." "I'm in the tunnel," I panted, my voice echoing. "I'm going for the local server, the last 7%. "Good, I'm at the command center. I have Tobin here. He's safe." I heard my brother's voice, high and thin, in the background. "Wait," Rhea said, her voice electric. "Tobin, that trap text. The one about the poker game, the password they tried to get from you. Do you remember it?" "Yeah," I heard Tobin say. "It was Stillwater_legacy_77. Why?" Maris Rhea shouted, her voice breaking with triumph. "The original USB, the wallet map. It was locked. That's the password. That's the key, Tobin. Read it to me again. Slowly." I heard my brother's voice, clear and steady, reading the password. "It's working," Rhea screamed. "We can't take the money, but we can freeze it. The new riverfront fund is locked. He's cut off." A roar of pure, animalistic rage echoed from deep within the tunnel, traveling faster than the sound of my footsteps. Hargrave knew. He was trapped. I started to run. A new sound joined the echo of my feet, a rhythmic, lapping sound, the sound of water, dark and cold, covering the floor of the tunnel. The tide. It was coming in. The rising water in the tunnel was black, icy, and smelled of rust. It lapped at my knees, trying to pull me down. My flashlight beam, weak and yellow, finally hit a rusted metal door, riverfront data, sub-level 3. I plunged my good hand into the frigid water, fumbling for the handle. It was locked, of course, but the lock was old, a simple utility tumbler. I pulled the small metal pick from the janitor's key ring I had palmed at the depot. My hands were shaking. My bandaged arm a dull, screaming fire. 3 seconds. 4. The lock clicked. The vault was dry, raised 2 feet above the tunnel floor. It was a small, concrete room, humming with the sound of servers. I found the main console, plugged in the data cloner. The device lit up. It recognized the 93% I already had. It recognized the local partition. Merging data, 94% Muertotine, 97%, Siu, 100%. Download complete. I had it. The entire ungodly ledger, the last nail. Clever girl. The voice was not an echo. I spun. The cloner clutched in my hand. Sloane Hargrave was standing in the doorway, his tuxedo ruined, his face pale and contorted with a rage that was almost inhuman. Behind him, looking terrified, was Eamon Pike. "The money," Hargrave whispered, his voice shaking. "It's frozen. You did that." "Get out of my way," I said. He laughed, a choked, terrible sound. "You and Riven. You think you won." He took a step into the vault. Pike stayed in the doorway, blocking my only exit. "You just sealed your own graves." "The tide is rising, Sloane," I said, my flashlight beam on his face. "So are your crimes." I threw the heaviest thing I could find, a backup battery, at the server rack to his left. He flinched, and I bolted. I shoved past Pike, back into the rising, black water. "Get her!" Hargrave screamed. I ran. The water was at my waist now, a heavy, dragging current. Behind me, I heard them splashing, cursing. The tunnel exit was a square of gray, stormy light. I scrambled up a rusted ladder, bursting through a utility hatch onto the street. I was not just on a street, I was on the Stillwater Bridge. The storm had broken. A cold, driving rain was lashing the deck. The sky was a bruised, angry purple, split by a low rumble of thunder. It was a trap. At both ends of the bridge, blocking all escape, were the flashing blue and red lights of AMCD vehicles, the clean ones, Ria's team. Hargrave and Pike scrambled out of the hatch behind me, their faces stark in the strobing lights. They saw the blockade. They were cornered. "You!" Hargrave snarled. Grabbing Eamon Pike by the front of his shirt, he pressed the barrel of a small, silver pistol to Pike's temple. "You set me up. You called them." "No, Sloan. It was her. It was the girl." Pike was blubbering, hands raised, a picture of abject terror. "Back off," Hargrave screamed, dragging Pike into the center of the bridge, using him as a human shield. "All of you back off, or I put a bullet in my lawyer's head." A static crackle, and Rhea Klein's voice boomed from a loudspeaker on the nearest AMCD truck. "Sloan Hargrave, you are surrounded. There is no escape. Let the man go." I looked around, frantic. Where was Riven? He was supposed to be at the pier. He was here. He was standing near the southern abutment, by the shadows of the massive steel girders. He was soaked, his bad arm held stiffly against his side. He was just watching, waiting. He had done his part. He had cut off the river escape, forcing Hargrave up onto the bridge, into the light, into the trap. I pulled out my cheap burner phone. I opened the file, the complete 100% file. I hit the Go Live button on a secure streaming app Rhea had installed. "Rhea," I whispered into the phone, "push this link to every news outlet in the state right now." The viewer count on my screen jumped from 10 to 1,000 to 20,000 in less than 30 seconds. I held the phone up, the screen glowing in the rain. "You want to see a show? Hargrave," I shouted, my voice raw against the wind. "Here it is. Here is the new riverfront. Here is Oraline Partners, and here," I zoomed in, "is the digital signature of Eamon Pike, authorizing the transfer of $10 million in illegal funds." Hargrave froze. Pike twisted, his eyes wide, staring at the phone screen. He saw his own name, his own ruin, broadcast to the world. He was the fall guy. "You," Pike whispered, his voice cracking. "You were going to let me take the fall." "Shut up, Eamon," Hargrave snarled, pressing the gun harder. "Turn it off," Hargrave screamed at me. "Turn it off, or I swear. I'll find your brother. I'll find him, and I'll finish what I started. Let me walk, and I'll let him live a life for a life." I took a step forward. The wind whipped my hair across my face. "You still don't get it, do you? You threaten him. You threaten me." I looked straight at Hargrave, and I spoke, not to him, but to the thousands of people watching. "He thinks he can buy my future. He thinks he owns me. He doesn't own my future." That was it. That was the moment Eamon Pike broke. He was not a kingpin. He was a coward who had just seen his entire life evaporate. With a scream of pure, selfish rage, Pike slammed his elbow backward into Hargrave's ribs. The gun went off, a sharp crack, the bullet firing harmlessly into the stormy sky. Pike dropped to the wet asphalt, rolling away, hands clasped on his head. "He's all yours," Pike shrieked. "I'm done. I'm a witness. I'm a goddamn witness." Hargrave was exposed, alone. His human shield was gone. He stood there, stunned, the gun hanging at his side. Riven stepped out of the shadows. He walked calmly into the middle of the bridge, his hands empty, his bad arm limp. He stopped 10 feet from Hargrave, placing himself directly between the gunman and the AMCD line. "Sloan," Riven said, his voice quiet, but it cut through the rain. "It's over. No more shadows. No more tunnels. It ends here. In the light." Hargrave looked at Riven. He looked at the cops. He looked at me. My phone still held high, still streaming. His face. a mask of civilized greed, finally dissolved. All that was left was the brute. He raised the gun. He did not aim at the cops. He did not aim at Riven. He aimed at me. "You!" he screamed. It happened faster than a breath. Riven moved. He was not fast. He was just there. He shoved me back, spinning, putting his body between me and the gun. The shot cracked, simultaneous with the thunder. Riven cried out, a sharp, choked sound, as the bullet tore through the fabric of his ruined tuxedo, grazing his side. He stumbled, catching himself on the rain-slick guardrail, but he did not fall. The AMCD task force moved. They were not cops. They were soldiers. A wave of black-clad, disciplined bodies. They did not fire a shot. They swarmed Hargrave, taking him down, his face pressed to the wet street. He was screaming curses, but the sound was lost in the storm. I did not hear a struggle. I just heard the clean, final, definitive click of steel handcuffs. The adrenaline vanished. I was just cold. I ran to Riven, my hands fluttering over his side. "You're hit, you're hit." "It's a graze," he gasped, his hand covering mine. He was pale, shaking from the pain and the cold, but he was alive. The rain turned from a storm to a deluge, as if the sky had finally given up. I grabbed him, and he grabbed me. We stood there, clinging to each other in the middle of the steel water bridge, soaked to the bone, the blue and red lights of the law washing over us, reflecting in our eyes. The loudspeaker crackled to life. It was Rhea. "Sloan Hargrave is in custody. Warrants are signed. The new riverfront project is hereby frozen by federal injunction. All associated funds have been seized." A new sound rose up from below the bridge, from the banks of the river. It was a roar. The people of Rivermouth. They had come out of their homes. They had seen the live stream. They were standing in the rain, cheering, holding up their soggy, handmade signs, "Home is home." Riven listened to the cheer. He looked down at me, his face streaked with rain and grime, a pained, exhausted smile touching his lips. "You chose the light, Maris." He said, his voice rough. "So did I." The words hung in the air. The AMCD officers nearby paused. The sound of Pike's sobbing stopped. The cheering from the riverbank seemed to hold its breath. It was the sound of Riven Calder, the man who owned the shadows, surrendering to something else, and the whole city was listening. 3 months later, the Sunset Spoon was still the Sunset Spoon. It still smelled of burnt coffee and old grease. But next door, in the space that had been a boarded-up pawn shop, was the Rivers Bridge kitchen. It was my new office. Using the seized funds from Hargrave's frozen riverfront account, the funds Tobin had helped Rhea lock down the city had established a community trust. The Rivers Bridge kitchen was its first project. We served 100 free meals a day, and we ran a culinary job training program for the exact people Hargrave had tried to displace. My mother's cocktail notebook, her old dreams, was the basis for our curriculum. Tobin was here, and he was not cooking. He was sitting at a small desk in the corner, a cup of coffee at his elbow. He was on the phone, his voice patient, walking an elderly woman from Rivermouth through a predatory loan agreement she had almost signed. He was clean. He was in counseling for his gambling. But more than that, he was paying his debts forward. He had found his calling, not in the rush of the cards, but in the steady, quiet work of helping people read the fine print. The city was breathing again. Sloan Hargrave was buried under a mountain of federal indictments for racketeering, wire fraud, and extortion. Eamon Pike had turned state's witness. His testimony, combined with my 100% complete file, had painted a picture so damning that Hargrave was denied bail. I saw Pike last week. He was wearing a bright orange vest, picking up trash along the Stillwater Bridge, fulfilling his community service right in the heart of Rivermouth. Miss Carlotti, the matriarch from the shelter, was sitting on a folding chair, knitting, making sure he did not miss a spot. As for Riven, the Calder Consortium was changing. He had signed a public-private agreement with a new 3-county-wide integrity task force, the TCIT. He was moving his operations out of the shadows, focusing the consortium on civil logistics, infrastructure security, and rapid response rescue. The black parts of his organization, the parts that lived on intimidation and fear, were publicly dissolved. He had held a press conference. He took 2 questions. He did not smile, but he had chosen the light, and he was standing in it. We had our own agreement, 3 vows, we called them, settled on that rainy rooftop and refined in the quiet moments since. 1, no lies ever. 2, no violence to silence the truth or to punish the weak. 3, Friday night dinner, together, at the community kitchen, after the last meal was served. Tonight was Friday. The kitchen was empty, the floors mopped, the massive steel counters gleaming. The only sound was the steady drum of an early autumn rain against the windows. I was finishing the payroll, my bandaged arm now just a faint, pink, shiny scar aching slightly in the cold. I heard his footsteps behind me, quiet. Sure, I did not look up. "You're late," I said. A warm, heavy coat draped over my shoulders. His coat, the one he had wrapped me in on the roof. "The TCIT meeting ran long," he said, his voice a low rumble near my ear. He came around the desk and stood in front of me, and he looked tired. The bullet graze on his side had healed, but like his injured shoulder, it pained him when the weather turned. He wore the injury, the same way he wore his tailored suit, a part of him accepted. He held out his hand. I took it. He pulled me to my feet. "No music," I whispered. "We don't need it." He drew me close, his good arm sliding around my waist, his hand resting warm and possessive on my hip. His other hand, the one with the scarred knuckles, came up to cup my face. I put my hands on his chest, feeling the steady, slow beat of his heart under my palms. We danced, a slow, shuffling circle in the middle of the empty kitchen. The rain was our orchestra. I leaned my head against his shoulder, breathing in the scent of him, cold rain, expensive wool, and something that was just riven. He lowered his head, and our foreheads touched. We stood like that for a long time, just breathing, sharing the same air. The storm was over, and we had survived. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. My fingers found the thin, white scar at his temple, the one from before me. I traced it. A silent question he had already answered. He leaned into my touch, his eyes closing. This was our intimacy. It was not the frantic, desperate kiss in the stairwell. It was this, the quiet, the safety, the absolute, terrifying trust. He lifted his head. His eyes, no longer chips of ice, were dark, warm, and fixed on me. He waited. He always waited. I was the one who closed the distance. The kiss was slow, and it was deep. It was a promise, a vow, a settling. It was every unspoken word from the last 3 months, a long, unhurried conversation. It was the warmth of his body against mine, the gentle pressure of his lips, the feeling of his heart beating steadily against my hand. It was tender. It was respectful. And it was enough. When we broke apart, I kept my hands on his chest. "Rhea Klein stopped by," I said, my voice a little breathless. "Oh, she left this." I nodded to the desk. There was a simple, cream-colored envelope. Inside was a letter, officially establishing the Maris Ellery Civilian Whistleblower Protection Program. A slow smile touched his lips. "You're a federal program now." "Don't, it's ridiculous." "It's not," he said, his smile fading into something more serious. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out something heavy and cold and familiar. The steel watch, the one he had left in the diner, the one Stan had pocketed, and the one Riven had quietly retrieved. He placed it in my palm. It was heavy, solid, real. "That night," he said, his voice quiet, "at the Spoon, you were the first person in 10 years who wasn't afraid of me. You were just angry. You taught me something. Maris, you taught me about a power I had forgotten. The power of daring to say no to a man like me. That's the most terrifying power in the world. I looked at the watch. I looked at him. I closed my hand around it. On the wall of the kitchen, above the pass-through, I had hung a framed photo, a candid shot taken from the bridge that night, showing the crowd of Rivermouth residents in the rain, their signs held high. Rivermouth home is home. Beneath it, Tobin had mounted a small brass plaque. It was something I had said to Rhea in the library, something she had quoted in her report. The light isn't loud, but it makes everyone silent. The bell on the front door of the Sunset Spoon jangled, the sound cutting through our quiet. A man's voice, loud, arrogant, and drunk, bellowed through the pass-through. "Hey, waitress, is anyone working here? My coffee is cold, and this idiot kid," he snapped his fingers, "doesn't even speak English." I stiffened. It was Lucy, not Lucy, the dishwasher, a new girl, a trainee, just 17, just like Lucy had been. I saw her through the pass-through, her shoulders slumped, her face red, trying not to cry. The old instinct surged, the familiar, hot anger. I moved toward the pass-through, ready to fight, ready to yell. A hand on my arm stopped me. Riven. He did not look angry. He smiled at me, a small, private smile. "My turn," he whispered. He let go of my arm. He walked out of the kitchen, through the connecting door, and into the diner. I followed, stopping in the doorway. "Sir," Riven said. The man, a beefy tourist in a loud shirt, spun around. "About time I'm paying for service." Riven smiled. It was not the cold smile from the gala. It was warm, polite, utterly disarming. He placed a hand on the back of the trainee's chair. "This is Maria," Riven said, his voice calm, but it carried, and the entire diner, the two truckers in the back. Stan at the register went dead silent. "She's new. And in this diner, we treat new people with respect. It's the house rule." The man's mouth opened. He looked at Riven. He did not know who he was, but he saw the suit, the confidence, the absolute lack of fear. He saw a man who owned the very air he was breathing. "Now," Riven continued, still smiling, "I'm going to get you a fresh, hot cup of coffee on the house, and you're going to apologize to her, and then you're going to enjoy your meal, quietly." The man's face went from red to white to red again. He looked at Riven. He looked at me. He looked at Stan. He deflated. "Yeah, okay, sorry, kid." Riven poured the coffee and set it down. He walked back to me, not even looking back. The silence in the diner was profound, but it was not the silence of fear I had felt that first night. It was the silence of respect, the silence of the light. Riven took my hand, his scarred knuckles lacing with mine. He raised my hand to his lips and kissed my fingers. He had chosen, and this time, I knew. Love had chosen the right side. Thank you so much for listening to our story. I'd love to know where you are listening from in the world. So please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this journey with Maris and Riven, please subscribe to our channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and give this video a like. And if you really want to support us, please hit that hype button to help this story be heard by more people.